Ask your pastor about this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of The Real World Prepper. I am him. So, this is something I've heard of before, but hadn't done much research on it. I had someone share with me in my email, which by the way is in my About section, along with a USPS address and a Patreon link. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. But I had someone share an email with me with a link to a video, and which led me down a rabbit trail to look at this topic. So I have heard of this before, but again, recently, just in the last couple of days, have I really looked into this. So about 13 years ago, there was a whistleblower who was a pastor. He exposed a nationwide FEMA program which aims to train pastors and religious leaders of all kinds to become spies and essentially enforcers of the federal government's agenda during times of disaster and future declarations of martial law. This was done under the guise of FEMA disaster preparedness. The FEMA directors instructed pastors that it was their job to implement certain directives. So in this program, it teaches pastors to, quote, train their congregations to obey the government during the upcoming trying times, during future martial law events. This includes training congregants in the advice of property and firearms seizures or handovers and forced relocations. This largely comes from, they've asked the pastors, Christian pastors anyway, to largely draw from Romans 13. This is also the same verse or book in the Bible, chapter in this book in the Bible, that Hitler used to trick Christians into following his directives of that time during World War II and before. We all know how that worked out, okay? The verse that is misused here is, let every person be subject to the governing authorities. And of course, we are supposed to submit to our government, provided it doesn't go against God's law, okay? So FEMA wants pastors to preach to the congregants to obey the government no matter what, because the government, knows best. Now, this is kind of directed at people who call themselves Christians, okay? You know, the U.S. kind of leads the world in lots of things, including Christianity largely. Be that as it may, you know, for good, bad, or ugly, however it looks right now for the U.S. But the number one enemy, the number one weapon, rather, of the enemy is deception. We all probably know and understand that most Christians, or people who call themselves Christians, don't read their Bible enough, if at all. I am guilty of not reading it enough. I have gotten better and am getting better and am spending more time in the Word, but this has been something I've dealt with and struggled with over the years as well. There are also many preachers and pastors that do not read the Bible or do not know it the way that they should, the way that is the truth of the Word. Okay, so anyway, these FEMA directors, they go on to these pastors, and this whistleblower sat through several of these meetings where they got all these pastors together in different areas, counties. I'll go over some numbers of that here in a minute. This whistleblower goes on to say that they implied that the attitude of many Americans would dangerously undermine their efforts because of the pesky problem of personal property rights and U.S. citizens wanting to prevent seizure of their land and assets. Wow, how dare us American citizens want to hold on to our own property and to withhold our own rights. They stressed that the pastors preach subservience until the time that any event as to prep the congregants to more easily accept their mandates and their directives. Again, personal property seizures, rights being usurped, forced relocations, things of that nature. Basically preparing the sheep for the slaughter. saying that this was for their own good. These directives are for us, the American people's own good, right? We don't know how to take care of our damn self, right? So, like the Soviet model, where churches are being systematically infiltrated by government officials and being used as conduits for martial law training and general conditioning. So this is exactly what's going on. Many of you probably don't even know about this. Probably some do, but many of you don't. At the time of this leak, 13 years ago, it was said that there were over 1,300 counties in the United States that were already willing participants, already going along with the program, had pastors in place already beginning to preach this and to seep this message in. Now that alone right there, you know, presents a problem to me with this. I have a problem with the Western church as it is anyway, Christian church. It's you know, it's been marginalized and it's been taken over, basically, in my opinion, largely anyway. So this program is operating under, it's called the NVAOD program. It stands for National Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster. You can check out their website. I encourage you to do that. If you do, you'll see a bunch of speakers on there from very different walks of life, different denominations, and so on and so forth. They use the words often amplification, harmony, cooperations, cooperative, and they stress how we the people should give up our own ideas and rights completely and completely rely on our benevolent government to take care of everything. You know, it reminds me of the scariest words ever spoken. I'm from the government. I'm here to help. So smoke screens is what it is. You know, it's not FEMA coming in saying, it is FEMA coming in saying this, but they're setting up these other ABC agencies that go check out the website for NVAOD, National Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster. Check it out for yourself. So some pastors are actually being offered first dibs on care and supplies for themselves and their families for their compliance. Plans are already made. They're already put together. They were put together 13 years ago, prior to that actually, and implemented initially 13 years ago. So just think of where they are with the plans today. We already know that Christians, homeowners, property owners, patriots, constitutionalists, nationalists, gun owners, etc. are considered terrorists right here in the United States right now today. We already know this. Christians, homeowners, property owners, patriots, constitutionalists, nationalists, gun owners, and the list does go on, are considered terrorists. Those who hold the values of America and of Christ and what this country was founded on, we are the bad guys, you know, according to the federal government. And they know this because they know that we are the ones who are willing to uphold what this country is supposed to be and uphold the Constitution and uphold what God has to say about how we should behave and how we should be in this world. All right? And this is what is taught to the pastors and religious leaders who are participating in this ludicrous government program. Look, I'm not trying to scare you, just trying to make you aware of this, because I figure many of you are not aware of it. How many of you will now go, and I encourage you to do this. I'm going to do it. I am. I'm going to do it. I don't have a home church right now. We just moved. We're still trying to figure out where we're going to land, but how many of you will go to your pastor and ask him if he is a knowing and willing participant of this program, of this crime against American citizens is what it is? Will your pastor be one of the ones that is participating in the stripping of your rights? Will your pastor be one of the ones that is participating in the seizure of your property and assets? Will they be an active part in the mass deception that is coming? Ask them and find out. And check this stuff out for yourself. Again, as always, thank you for joining me on The Real World Prepper. I will see you next time.